Lost Lydia's mic because what's happened? Because I could just hear her yell from the other room.
No, just mute your mic, because we already started. It's not like we've done this 2 other times before. Oh my god. Reddit!
Engineer, you get
Technical assistance. Done.
Engineer on a tablet. Alright guys,
Game of Thrones.
welcome to A Shame of Thrones, guys. This is episode 3. We're going to be talking about Oathbreaker from last night. So let's just dive right into it, I guess.
Let's do it.
And we highlighted it a lot the last episode. Jon Snow's alive! Can we all
Yay!
rejoice in happiness and
Who knew?
hail Satan
What a
or
surprise!
whatever?
I was slightly upset that he got covered immediately with a coat.
You got some real nice
He
kid.
did come to learn we
kid
didn't
nerds.
need to see anything because he's not a god.
Yes!
Look,
That pecker joke was hilarious.
It was good.
So,
I was not ready for that. That was really. It's something that Nate had mentioned, I think, maybe from the first episode, is that they're throwing lots of jokes in this season, and I'm not really mad at it. Usually,
I was like, Nate mentioned the size of Jon Snow's dick?
Yes.
'Cause that's
I did.
that too.
See, I had conjectured. I thought it was going to be huge.
Yeah. Huge.
He's going to be Holdor Part 2.
But and it's not like annoying, really cheesy, shitty jokes either. Like
No.
they're cleverly placed in. Like Tyrion had a couple of.
There was some real fart jokes.
I saw the fart joke right before
Yeah.
we started. Did anyone
It was
else see
great.
the fart joke?
The old
Yeah.
left cheek sneak.
Master Pycelle.
Yeah. When
He
Cersei
saw-
and Jaime come in with Mountain,
Oh.
there's like a squeak, and it's allegedly like chair squeak. But it sounds like a fart, and I kind of.
It's definitely 100% a fart.
I think
Yeah.
Well, that
100%
is definitely a
left cheek
fart.
sneak.
I'm almost positive that the closed captioning. I actually saw that right before.
Yeah, if you notice, we'll do a lore check right off the bat, right? So one of the things about the Meisters, or the Maesters rather, is that they have a chain for like every different discipline that they learn
Yeah.
at the Citadel. And you'll notice that Master Pycelle is definitely missing his silent but deadly chain. Why?
But I'm ching.
Yeah.
We'll be
You're
here all
welcome.
night.
That one's free. You're paying me for the next one.
Yeah. So, Dawn is alive, and we can we don't, we that story. They finally got hung, and Ollie's dead.
Ollie.
Yay!
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
actually found a
When-
subreddit the other day that's called like "fuck Ollie."
Watch out.
Oh.
Or
Be careful googling that one.
Ollie. No,
Pro
it's called,
tip.
it's called "fuck Ollie," and
It was-
I looked at it today while I was at work, and all of the posts like, "We did it, guys! Yay! We did it! Yay! We did it!" So
It
everyone
started trending on Twitter last episode.
did it really.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So Ollie is finally dead. And what I kind of thought was interesting were those four the only four that stabbed him?
I was thinking that too. I think
They
there was.
like
I
the-
thought there was more.
Well, I think a couple got killed when like the giant came in and stuff. Like they knocked out a couple there.
One guy.
Yeah, I mean,
Giant threw one dude around.
Couple got
Yeah,
killed.
one guy.
was involved.
I think a
in
couple other.
I mean, well, there is the problem in the Night's Watch of manpower, right? So it's
Yeah.
probably a scenario where they killed the ringleaders. You know, the first wave of dudes who
Right.
stabbed him,
Yeah.
like Ollie and Alistair Thorne, and then like two other guys because otherwise it'd be weird. But like you can't kill everyone there is the problem, or else there won't be anyone left.
They all would have basically been like traitors or whatever trying. I would. I mean, what do they do with the? Because who were the other two guys besides?
Yeah, the other two guys were inconsequential.
They
We've
were-
never seen
they
them.
were
So
nobodies.
yeah.
Alistair
Which-
and Ollie.
Which neither one of them actually, like, in the scene where they came in and took over in, like, episode 2, they never showed them taking anyone else away. They only showed them taking away
Ollie.
Ollie and Alistair. Right. So it's kind of strange.
Yeah, it was really weird how they did that.
Yeah.
But everyone's
You-
happy that Ollie's dead.
I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. Did anyone laugh? Like with their dead faces, like
They
like yeah.
they
like-
spent a lot of time on how they look dead, and
Yeah.
that took a while.
I dug it though. I dug it.
I kind of get the feeling that was one of those, like, we're at the end of the episode, we have to fill a little bit of time, and we can't show anything else major. So this is like how it's gonna end. Cause yeah, it was odd to me. Like, it felt very awkward at times. They just kept like, it was like, here's Jon Snow, here's dead dude, here's Jon Snow, here's another
But
dead.
I felt like they were just building up the tension to him turning around and like quitting the Night's Watch.
That's true. So yeah,
I was like-
after they get hung, so
And there's the
oh,
Oathbreaker.
by the way, I want to mention his hair.
What?
Mad at that?
I didn't
Are you
really.
asking the other
I'm
I'm
panel?
asking the ladies.
Panel?
Okay, let's
It's still long-ish. I could still run my fingers through it.
grab it on.
Old greasy dead hair though.
No, I think it's like soft and luxurious curls.
No.
It's always
It's-
luxurious.
That's some
Greasy
fancy
dead
he's
hair.
got going up there.
I prefer short hair, so it's okay.
Okay, so it's okay then.
Uh-uh.
Well, now that the vomiting is done.
Yeah.
Forever alone.
So now he's doing the watch, which I think we talked about this a little at a fish head kind of so he
Mhm.
doesn't have to be. Oh, what happened now? Me and Wally talked about this earlier.
Yeah, we
Where
did.
does he go now? He has like a slew of options, and there's probably a lot of shit that's been going on in the world that he hasn't been informed of before he was stabbed. There's a lot of stuff that he's happening. Like, for example, for the longest time, everyone was going after Sansa without even realizing that, oh, you. But that's kind of been a theme. Everyone wants to go after somebody without. So, what does he do now? What do?
I think he's probably going to head towards Winterfell.
Mhm.
Yeah, and see what, and then all of a sudden get there and holy shit, what's going on?
They're hurting for
Yeah.
a squirting up there. Like they're
Yeah.
like those motherfuckers are getting more villainous by the moment.
Go ahead, Kevin.
Oh, all right. Well, I was trying to answer the question first. So, I mean, to me, like the thing that was really interesting about that Jon Snow scene, and how it related to the rest of the episode was very much like what you mentioned, the idea of oath breaking or oaths, right? And obviously, there's a diametric opposition, right? There's Jon Snow who feels relinquished from his oath because he died, and also the people who Alistair Thorne talked about it, about the opposition between my loyalty to the Night's Watch or my loyalty to my Lord Commander, right? And so them being oath breakers was an interesting opposition. But another thing about it is that, like, what is this episode fundamentally asks the question, what is the value of an oath in Westerosi society, right? Like, whether it's between the Boltons, whether it's between the scene that I loved was actually the one with Tyrion and Missandei and Grey Worm, and we'll talk about that in a second. But like all of these are like, what's the value of someone's word? What's the value of their oath? And what does it really mean? And just to kind of keep it narrowed down to Jon Snow's scene at the end there, I thought it was fascinating that he was totally. It's not like he got up off the table and walked the fuck out and was like, "See you later, motherfuckers."
It was
He's
like a mic drop moment.
yeah,
Like, I killed
he
these
was
bitches.
like, I'm gonna get up off this table. I'm gonna put on some black. I'm gonna hang a dude or four, and then I'm gonna leave
Yeah.
after I've exercised some authority. Like, and that's an interesting thing to me, that he felt totally comfortable, seeming like he was fulfilling his oath and being the Lord Commander, right up until the point where like everybody turned blue, and then he's out.
Yeah.
Wally?
Pretty much sums it up. Good
No,
job.
no.
Yeah, I mean, no,
Oh,
that was,
you
that
look
was
like you're
all
about
right,
to say
very good.
something.
We have assembled
No.
a panel of experts to listen.
Basically,
Yeah.
well,
I mean, what he got his vengeance and then he was done, right? Like he's like, okay, cool, I killed all the guys that killed me, so now I'm out.
so
Yeah.
what does
like that was like supposedly the last thing that he needed to take care of before he could at that point say, all right, I'm done. Like, I can't leave the Night's Watch full of people who wanted to murder me as Lord Commander, because then whoever I might leave as Lord Commander could be set to the same fate. So, but the interesting part of it is, now that he's gone, are they really going to rally behind
Anybody else?
Yeah, yeah. Are they really going to rally, and are they going to have another election?
Right?
Well,
Yeah, like,
I
I mean-
almost think it was kind of a point where, he left and he had killed anybody who didn't agree with the wildlings being there, pretty much. So now I think it's going to be either like Jon leaving, kind of camping out with the wildlings a little bit, taking the wildlings with them and, overtaking Winterfell, or, just building his own little army to go after what whatever he's up against next.
Right, and that's kind of the interesting part, right? Is that Game of Thrones so much is about discourses of power. What is real power? What is not power, right? And there's so much made about oaths in Game of Thrones and how they're this binding kind of principle that really dictates people's actions. But ultimately, we kind of find out that that real power is things like, I'm gonna hang you. That's it. Like, end of the story. Or or whatever it is, and that oaths are just kind of tools that people use to gain the assent or the desired behavior from other people, and that when they no longer kind of feel the need to fulfill their oath from one reason or another, right, based on their nobility, then they're easily dispensed with, right? And that's because it's not going to come up any other way, and I'm shoehorning it in there. That's the whole point of that scene with Tyrion and Grey Worm and Missandei, right? Is him being like, let's play a drinking game. And they go, we don't drink. And then he goes, until you do, right? And like, to me, that was the heart of the episode. Like the idea of, we don't do something until we do it. We've sworn not to do it, and like the ability of people really change their actions based on kind of the things they say versus the real power is the interesting interplay of this episode for me.
Well, he left kind of a shitty time, John did. Because now,
Good time.
what's the Night's Watch supposed to do now? Because yes, they killed, people that were against the wildlings coming south of the wall, but I mean, there were a lot of people there when John was getting stabbed, when John was getting killed. So there's obviously people that still oppose that decision. So now it's kind of like there's still going to be people there. I don't think like he made the matters any better. He just killed Alistair, who was kind of the leader against the rebellion against John or whatever. So for him to basically leave, I feel like it's going to be worse for the Night's Watch there, because now they don't really have a leader. They don't have somebody that can kind of set everything straight or be like a mediator between the two, because yes, while he killed the leader, there's still obviously people there that are going to oppose it. So I feel like he still left it in kind of a really shitty situation. It's probably better for him and for his character and for his storyline, but overall for the Night's Watch, it's kind of shitty.
I would have to think, though, at a certain point that he would show up back there, because he's such an integral part to the White Walker line that he's going to have to go back. But right now, like, you could just tell from the moment he woke up, he is really confused. He needs to sort his stuff out right now, and I don't know that he would be able to do it.
Talk to someone.
Huh?
Yeah.
He needs to like talk to someone.
Yeah.
He needs a psychiatrist or somebody. There's nobody appropriate for him at the wall right now. So, but I think he needs to figure stuff out before he can go back and be an appropriate leader like he was. Especially, he lost his self-confidence. I mean, one of the things that he kept repeating over and over again was, I thought I was doing what's right. I thought I was doing what's right.
Yeah.
I think he plays like the noble leader guy. I think he goes and turns into like a hermit for a couple episodes or something, and then something happens and he comes back and everybody rallies behind him, because I mean, like, the wildlings are obviously going to follow him whatever he does, right? Because they all look at him as kind of like the god now, and plus they follow him in the first place because he let them blow the wall kind of thing. That's a big army. All the Night's Watch guys, there's like 40 of them in Castle Black, and like half of them like John. So I mean, that's like the Night's Watch now, and he'll be back in a couple after he goes on walkabout for a little bit.
It's funny. I read that as totally different, right? So first of all, I read it as like, as good a time as there is to leave the Night's Watch, you hit it, right? Because you've done a couple things. One, you've restocked them in terms of like actual able-bodied men, right? Two is that by that scene where everybody drops their weapons, you actually kind of, you give your assent, right? You're like, all right, well, I guess we're not fighting these motherfuckers, so I had my chance, speak now and forever, hold your bows and arrows. And additionally, like, by him removing Alistair and him removing himself, he removes the two focal points of the argument, so it doesn't become people. So now they can kind of just fucking move on and just watch the wall, right? And so I see it as the idea that he left them in a good place, and he doesn't need to go back because he has a greater destiny, right? And this is something we talked about last week, the idea of maybe Tyrion having a greater destiny, and certainly heavily hinted at this week with Jon having a greater destiny, right? So, like, by him being freed from his oath via death and this whole process, now he can go on to maybe the Tower of Joy and deal with all that stuff.
Well, for sure, I think, and I guess I could be wrong, but I think it was a classic Game of Thrones moment where they set it up to, like, leave it alone for a while. I don't think we'll go back to the wall for a long time, but I do think that the Tower of Joy stuff was the biggest cock tease in the history
we'll talk about
all of it.
We'll talk about that together.
That's enough for today, Wally.
That's
enough for
Wally's
today.
not paying
Awful.
attention. Wally's not paying attention to Skype chat, so he doesn't know what we're talking about next. So,
I do. You're talking about Dany and Tyrion next, but we said Tower of Joy first, so thanks for setting me up.
Then why are you talking about Tower of Joy if that's not what we're talking about next?
Oh, well, because it's the first thing you typed.
You just got Sir Arthur Dany.
Anyway, okay, so Dany is on her way to, she made it to Vistothrak, and what's the name of the place where the Khaleesi's all go? I forgot the name of it already.
Some sort of temple.
Kevin?
It's some sort of temple where all the Khaleesi widows go, and they basically just go there to die or whatever. So she kind of tried and failed to just like whip it out and say, I'm the Khaleesi and here's my name that is like a paragraph long and I don't belong here and blah blah blah, and they basically shut her down as like she basically doesn't have a choice and this is what happens. But because she like betrayed traditions as soon as Khal Drogo died and she didn't immediately go there, now they have to, I guess, do like some sort of trial or something to decide what her fate is going to be next.
Well, I liked how the like head widow
queen
made the comment of, we all thought our husbands were going to conquer and we're going to be next to them, and we all obviously were wrong. You know, like we're like smacked in the face with reality. Like, yeah, it's just kind of like we're following these men around as a hopeless cause. They're not ever going to amount to much of anything, or, you know, they're not. We all hoped ours was the one that was going to conquer, but it didn't happen.
Right.
It worries me that her plot line is getting more and more useless.
Well,
I'm waiting for that
what do you
freaking dragon
mean by
to
that?
swoop
What do you
in
mean by
and
that?
snatch her up.
Well, because she's stuck in such a shitty situation. It's like she's basically trapped right now. And while Jorah and everyone are like trying to find her, she's pretty much trapped right now. She doesn't have anything she can really do to get out of this until.
I'm gonna get my one. Have you seen The Empire Strikes Back before?
Can you please stop comparing every fucking episode to Star Wars? For fucking sake!
There's a second act thing happening.
Can we go an episode without comparing it?
Nope.
Not gonna happen.
Right,
nope, not gonna happen. But no, in all seriousness, I mean,
just keep calm.
They're setting up a second act for a third act, right? Like, she's in a horrible situation. It's bad. So when she comes back, Dracarys blazing, like, shit's gonna be dope. It's gonna be awesome.
But like, from a storytelling aspect, you have to slow her down a little bit, right? Because you can't just let her cross the ocean because she's got fucking dragons and she's got to ruin everybody's day, and who can fight dragons these days, right? So you have to slow her down and have her do something while everything else is playing out on the mainland.
I don't know, though, that she's in such a bad situation that we're all saying, like, yeah, situationally it sucks because she was this great woman of power and now she's just falling. But there was one line in there, and they kind of just passed it off. They didn't make a big deal about it. But the head witchy woman, Khaleesi queen, whatever, she basically said, like, in this room is where we decide what cities to conquer. And, like, she has this whole spiel about it. So it is a place of power, albeit a prison sentence. There is some magical things that come out of that. And if you like trace it back to kind of like Greek type origins, there is that whole temple that is solely run by women, and you go there because they seek fortune from them. So, I mean, her situation sucks, but I don't necessarily know if that plot line sucks. I think there's some promise in it that we can see that they're not making a big deal about it right now because they want you to think that it's a terrible situation.
And I see what you're saying too, because she could, in her way, become the head widower, and she could say, okay, well, we're all going to take over this town, and we're going to take over this city, and you know, it could be beneficial for her in the long run.
And now she has a league of strong women behind her.
Yes.
The female Ghostbuster.
Yeah.
It's interesting because it's women that explicitly do not derive their power from men, right? Mm-hmm. Because the men are dead. So it's actually going to be interesting to see how this plays out, because they're essentially there to be kind of locked away, and we talked about kind of like the patriarchy type problems associated with that. But if she's able to turn that on its head for her own purposes, that'd be really cool.
Yeah.
So back in Marine now, where Tyrion and Varys are, and they're basically kind of having a struggle ruling. That bitch that keeps helping the Sons of the Harpy, Bala. That's the only reason I know her name is because she's a character in Heroes of the Storm. But they're trying to basically hold everything down in Marine, and they find out that the Sons of the Harpy is shocking, being funded by the old masters of Astapor and Yunkai, the previous cities that she conquered. So Varys is showing that he actually does have strengths, even though he's not in Westeros. And now Tyrion is
Playing drinking games.
Playing drinking games and
being awesome.
Making awkward situations.
Look, he does two things. He drinks and he knows things.
Yes.
So
yes.
Like,
this
okay,
is kind of
the greatest line you can't deny was when he was saying a great man once said, and he gives the quote,
she's like, who said that?
Me. Just now.
I was like, boom, and their reactions were like, I don't get
it. So great. So good.
I don't really know what the significance of that whole scene was.
I'm telling you,
like Kevin said, I think it was the heart of the episode. I really do. I completely agree, and I think there's a lot that goes to where he was saying, look, all this killing, all this bloodshed, it all goes to history is all about conversations between people in great rooms, and that is like what starts causing all the problems, all the warfare. It really was the heart of the story, I think.
Get it, Wally. Get it.
I agree with you, man, on that. I really do.
I
Plus, anything that involves Tyrion is amazing. So,
pretty much.
Don't fall in love. He'll be dead next episode.
Go, Madison.
That's terrible. I think too. Kevin was talking about it, but the whole other part of that scene was also talking about oath breaking and how people can easily be swayed on situations, and one of the things that, before you, I guess last season is, what's his face? Bald eunuch guy. I can't remember.
Varys, yeah.
Is everybody thinks he's a really evil guy for like a good majority of it. And slowly we're starting to see that he's like, he might be evil, but he does things in like really nice ways. Like he doesn't necessarily punish. He tries to reward people that deliver to him. And then I can't remember if the scenes are back to back, but then you go back to the Westeros and you see that now his little secret whisperers have been taken over. So it's kind of it has that ribbon going through it of oath breaking.
And if you think back to Tyrion's trial, I mean, Varys basically did that exact same thing. Everyone thought that he was going to be on Tyrion's side, and then he kind of like betrayed him by like testifying against him, but then he turned around and like helped him escape. So it's not so much that he's like jumping back and forth between his oaths, I guess. It's kind of like he has this plan all along of what it is, and it's his way of kind of working his way through everything. And it's like he does everything for a reason. Like every step that he takes, while sometimes it probably won't make sense, like when he testified on Tyrion's trial, but everything he does for a reason, which is probably why he's one of the smartest people in the show.
Yeah.
Right. Well, he does it for the good of the realm.
Yeah.
And he's a big picture guy.
Yeah.
So he's all these things are for the good of the realm.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Kevin.
It's true, and it's once again about the idea of discourses of power and the way words work within those, right? And he and Tyrion in particular are the prototypical example of leveraging words rather than other kind of modes of power, and it being effective, right? But we also see him lie, right? Oh, I would never put a child in danger. Flash forward to Qyburn, like, who took over all of his children that he like bribes with sweets to do spying for him. Like, so he doesn't necessarily mean what he says, and in that sense is an oathbreaker. But at the same time, he very much wields power effectively by being able to do that.
Absolutely.
So kind of like we had already discussed, Qyburn has taken over his little birds, which I didn't know they were all children.
Well, that was why we saved that reveal for that little
yeah.
That was great writing.
Yeah.
I would never put a child in danger. Here's all the children I put in danger.
Well, you had seen like every now and then with the messages to Jorah back in like season like 1 or 2 or whatever. They were through kids, and you could see a couple of them bringing messages that were children, but I never really thought that all of them were kids. That basically all of the little birds were actually children, and it kind of makes sense to. I hate to say it, but it kind of makes sense to just use kids, especially.
Well, he also talks about their trustworthiness, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, still in King's Landing, Tommen finally grows some balls and goes and talks to the High Sparrow, and then his balls shrink again. And
shriveled. They didn't shrink. They shriveled.
I was kind of upset that the conversation between them didn't. I feel like it didn't really have like a finale. Like I feel like there wasn't so much of like an ending to their conversation. It was kind of like Tommen was like, you need to, release Queen Marjorie, and Cersei isn't even done. Like she still has to have a trial with the 7 Septs to see like all of the shit that she did. So she's not even done with the shit that's going on with her. But I thought one thing that was really funny is, I don't know if anyone else noticed it, is that at one point Tommen says, "I am the king." And if you think back to maybe last season or something, Tywin said at one point to Joffrey, a king that has to proclaim "I am the king" is no king, or something to that effect. So it was kind of funny to see Tommen go in there and try to make this point and say, "I am the king," and it shows that he doesn't really have as much power as he thinks he does.
Well, and I think it's because of the influence of his mother. His mother
Absolutely.
is very, not saying that she doesn't back up her words, but she is very forceful with her words, and she, I'm sure, teaches her sons to be the same way. So they are very assertive with their words, but sometimes the words are empty. And he came in there full of piss and vinegar, and pretty much, we didn't see him leave, but he probably left with his tail between his legs, and all remorseful, and that was a great little. Speech there, High Sparrow.
That was a hell of a speech.
It was a good speech.
Yeah. That was a hell of a speech.
Well, the Sparrow was in control from start to finish. Because he's the one that like gets all the guards to go away, and then he sits down, he gets Tommen to sit down next to him. He's talking to him like he's a little kid, and he's just like, "Hey, we're chilling. We'll have this conversation." And
it was like it was his dad. Like, "Hey, come here, son."
That's probably exactly the point of it. That was probably exactly the point of it, because he doesn't really have any male figures anymore. Right. I mean.
When he sat down on the bench next to the High Sparrow, I'm like, oh boy, he's gonna be putty at this point.
Yep.
But this is like the third time that Tommen has tried to do something about Marjorie being in prison, about the stuff with Cersei happening, and he still has no like successes doing it. And kind of seeing with the last episode when he comes to Cersei and he's kind of like, "Teach me to be a king," or something like that he's just going to be used as a pawn for her, basically. So instead of him actually doing something, probably Cersei is going to, and we saw that a little bit when Cersei and Jaime and the Mountain came into the
small council.
The small council. Yeah, and
the fart heard around the world.
The fart heard around the world. They tried to kind of take over the small council, and what's the hand's name?
Kevin Lannister.
Yeah, Kevin. Kind of.
Kevin with an A.
Kevin was basically like, you can't. We can't force you to stay here, but you can't. Or we can't force you to leave, but you can't force us to stay. And then they all get up and leave.
Yeah.
Closing time.
Yeah, basically.
I kind of like how, Cersei, going back to the High Sparrow and everything, Jaime had mentioned, we just need to take him out, and they're like, no, he has a ton of followers, da-da-da-da-da. but then it kind of almost, she hinted to that, at her atonement, her, sentencing or judge jury thing, that there's going to be those 7 leaders there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, those would be the 7 people to take out.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. True.
Or to influence in some way, which
Yeah.
probably wouldn't work with something like the Sept.
Yeah, but do we know who those people are? Or
No.
No,
They-
they're
It's
just
just like going to be 7 rando guys that the high
no,
sparrow-
they're Septons. They're supposed to be Septons.
Yeah, but what I mean is, how do you influence those people before?
Oh, that's what I'm saying. Is there's not going to be any way at all to influence them because they're going to be on the side of the High Sparrow no matter what.
or
is
kill
because-
them or do anything to them.
Yeah. So, well, but at one point, didn't she say something like, we only need to kill, or we only need to take care of one, or something?
She did say something about
something like
one.
that. Yeah.
She did. Yeah.
But, they kept going back and forth on, well, he's going to be surrounded by a shit ton of people. So it's going to be kind of difficult for them to just go in and take out the High Sparrow and go out because he actually has just as much of a following.
Mhm.
Okay. So seriously, a thought that literally just now came to my
Here it
head.
comes.
What if?
That's dangerous.
All right.
They don't
What
belong.
if? Complete speculation. What if the one she's talking about is Marjorie? What if they somehow killed Marjorie,
what I
which
thought,
then would
yeah.
send Tommen into the rage and would absolutely destroy the city that they killed the queen?
Because she did say something like, well, we only have one to kill. And then immediately after she said that, then they started talking about Marjorie.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So-
And so yeah.
What if, so the prophecy that she talked about, I think it was in the first episode, said all her children were going to die.
That's what I was just thinking. What if
And-
it's
And
What if it's
Tommen
Tommen?
is such a good-hearted king. You would
Ah.
think that people would love him.
I can't imagine Cersei plotting to kill him though.
That
I
is
don't
tough.
know.
Like,
They
I
do a lot
can't.
of misdirection in these episodes.
Yeah.
And, the Sparrow spent like 20 minutes or whatever it was talking to Tomlin about how much his mother loved him and have you felt that love and
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
Well, moving on. So back in Winterfell, we probably should talk about this earlier. So Roose Bolton is dead, poisoned by his enemies. Wink, wink, wink. And the Karstarks are now on his side, and then House Umber comes in and brings in Rickon, who's all grown
Yeah.
up. He's so
Not
big.
just Not
Yeah.
just Rickon.
Yeah.
Shaggy dog.
Yes.
Rick, but hey, that
To-
gives Jon
to
Snow
prove.
something to do, right?
To prove.
Fucked
Well,
up.
but the thing is Jon Snow doesn't know any of this shit yet. He doesn't. I mean, for all Jon Snow knows, everyone's dead. To be honest, I mean, he doesn't really know. He doesn't really know exactly what's going on. So now, how is Ramsay gonna use Rickon now?
That's a
I think
really
it's
good
great.
question.
I mean, it made sense to have Sansa because he could marry Sansa,
Sure.
and then by marriage he was like the Warden of the North or whatever. But just having Rickon, like it's kind of like, I have him. So
Follow
now-
me.
Now what? Like,
Well,
don't-
I think they just kill him, right? Because like the same reason
Well,
they
I
go and
mean-
kill Jon Snow was because he was a Stark.
I
Well,
don't
he
even-
definitely has
already
no
won
worth
the
to him then.
Yeah.
I don't even think that it matters having a Stark anymore because because they've already taken. Okay, he married Sansa. Kind of still has that authority. So, and then he killed Roose Bolton and basically claimed himself the Earth. So, what is really the point of having a Stark up there? Okay, like people
That's not a
that-
female. There is none.
people
Well, it's-
people that have lived in Winterfell forever, they always want to back the Starks or whatever. But it's not like Rickon is gonna make people follow Rand. So I don't. What does it even matter having Rickon?
Well, so once again, it goes to the idea of discourses of power, right, and legitimacy, and what lies people want to believe and what lies people don't want to believe, and who those people are, right? So, like, it's obvious that the Karstarks, and then who was it that brought in Rickon? What?
House Umber.
House Umber, right? Yeah. So it's obvious that the Umbers, like the whole point is there's no oath I can swear to you, right?
Yeah.
I exercise my power, and you understand my actions via deed, right? But that's not going to solve all the problems, right? And like even within that conversation, it's the idea of like, yeah, I know you killed your dad, and he's like, no, poisoned by the enemy.
Wink,
These
wink.
are the words we are using, right? Like this is how we're exercising power. So there's a non-zero possibility that Rickon that there's an elaborate ruse of Rickon is stood up as a puppet, right? Like Rickon is stood up in the same way that Tommen is stood up, right? As the Sparrow fights for Tommen, as Cersei fights for Tommen, as Marjorie fights for Tommen, and potentially Kevin Lannister fights for Tommen, right? Like same thing for Rickon is Lord Stark has returned home. You'll notice that Ramsay Bolton called him Lord Stark. You know, that this is fantastic news, but he's just a puppet. He's maybe turned into a Reek type, you know, like Theon was. But we can use his name and that word as a discourse and power, although it would be a lie.
Yeah.
Nice little bow on it.
Yeah.
Unless this movie keeps his manhood.
Let's hold on to that dick though, bro.
Yeah.
I'm really glad that he's back, and I hope that in some sort of way he'll become relevant, because they kind of just got rid of his story, and I was really curious about what exactly they were going to do with him. Did they do anything with him in the books?
Not yet.
After Bran leaves, they just leave.
There's not really anything going on with him. And
you have to remember, to the rest of the world, he's already dead, right? So he holds no position or nothing, because everybody already thinks that he was hung and burned by Reek.
Him and Bran. Now I wonder if he's gonna like confess about where Bran went and about them, and if they're gonna start trying to hunt him.
Well, does he really know where Bran went?
No.
Well, he knows he went north to try to find the three-eyed raven and the tree. And so it's not like
that doesn't mean anything to anybody.
It's not like it's a specific location, but he can be proof that Bran is still alive.
Yeah, well, and I think that's exactly what it is that he now proves that Bran is alive also.
Yeah.
Right, but as far as like pursuing him, I mean, you're talking about going through the wildlings that are south of the wall, going through Castle Black,
going north,
then all the White Walkers that are in the north. So there's not going to be any pursuit of Bran at the moment. Nobody's going to go up there and try and find him.
Exactly. Yeah.
But while we talked about Bran, does anybody remember the preview before the show started this season where Bran is standing up and the White Walker guy is standing behind him?
Yeah.
I didn't notice that.
I'm gonna nod my head yes, like I mean that, but it's really just the Oathbreaker.
Watch the season preview again for this season, and there's a scene where Bran is standing in the forefront, and standing behind him is that White Walker guy, that cool looking one that like brought everybody to life at the when Jon Snow was in that village. Yeah. Like that dude is standing behind Bran.
Yeah, behind him.
Okay, so speculation is that Bran now or Bran visiting the past in something that's happened.
Yeah, because they're kind of playing with this time travel stuff.
Well,
because he's walking around in all the visions and everything else.
True.
Yeah. So and that would be interesting because Bran has thus far seen images of past Starks.
Yeah.
And so there's actually like kind of an ongoing theory that guy, the Winter King, is actually a Stark who decided to go north of the Wall. I can't remember which Stark off the top of my head.
Brandon.
Bran the Builder.
Yeah, because remember he was on the Night's Watch and he got lost.
So there you go.
So that could be him.
I set him up, you knock him down.
Yeah, man.
That's how we do this, baby.
I thankfully haven't read any theories yet. I'm kind of
got that one down.
I want to wait. I haven't read any like scary theories yet. I've seen like previews for a few like on Reddit and on other forums, but I haven't read any yet. So I don't want to get my hopes up about anything.
There's this really crazy theory going on right now with the 7 old gods and the Stark kids.
Oh, really?
And if that theory is correct, then Rickon has kind of like a larger role to play in the situation.
I hope he has
speculation to the umpteenth degree.
I hope he does. Well, him and that, I'm really curious about the bastard that Davos sent away. You remember? He kind of just put him in a boat and just said,
Oh, he's rowing? Yes.
Yeah. And just go. I kind of wish they would do something with him and they would bring him back. But I don't really think they will because he's kind of irrelevant now. Like it doesn't really matter if he comes back or not because realistically it's like we're kind of over deciding who has the right to the throne anymore, and it's kind of just like, you know, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I think that guy's story had run its course.
Yeah, I think it was done. So
he's got stacked up biceps and forearms now, though.
Yeah,
I'll tell that much.
Right?
He's ripped. So, okay, moving on. So we see a little more of Arya, and she's back at the House of Black and White, and she's training. And I wrote that it's like her training is like a combination of Rocky and Daredevil.
It was a great training montage.
I was ready.
That really good upbeat 80s music.
I was ready to hear that. I was ready to hear like Eye of the Tiger or something. Plus I started watching Daredevil on Netflix, so I'm like on a Daredevil kick now. So she is starting to basically like adjust to being blind, and I like, for lack of a better term, like use her other senses to like help her fight. And she keeps getting asked these questions about her being Arya and like her past or whatever.
The game of many faces.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
And she's being like truthful with everything. But I also think that they might be using that information to like use in the future, like to use on a lie for someone else to use, and because someone else could use that. I don't know how to explain. Words are hard. You know what
the whole
I mean?
thing with faces and stuff though is like you give your face, like that face is taken and your story is taken, and then the people that they're like the faceless people can like take over your thing.
Well, but that's not until you're dead though. So I guess that wouldn't make sense for someone to try to take Arya's face and use her story is because she's not dead.
Well,
when she was like grabbing at his face.
Hers was one of them.
Right.
She wasn't dead.
Yeah.
So, well, yeah, but it's so once again, it comes back to the theme of the episode, right? And the game of many faces is the exact point of that, right? Is that, and then we saw it happen in parallel. They intercut between the two things, which is the intermarriage between physical power and prowess and the ability to lie, right?
Yeah.
The entire point of the game of many faces is to tell the truth, slip a lie in there sideways in a way that they can't tell, and that's when you've been successful or won the game of many faces, right?
Well, but,
so it's lying practice.
But what it is.
But
what's interesting is when she did it there, she never really told a flat-out lie. Like when she said she had 4 brothers, she considered John her brother, 100%.
So you're saying that there's a question about what is really the truth, huh?
No, I'm saying that I don't think she was playing. I don't think she was playing the game in that manner. I think they were trying to get information out of her because she said she considered John her brother basically. They talked about the Hound, and you can see like the friendship with her and the Hound. So it wasn't as much of a lie as it was like the first time when they played the game, when she flat out would say lies and flat out, you know, completely 100% lie about who she was and like her family or whatever.
When they were talking about when she was asked about her list,
yeah,
and she named the names on her list, and then the girl that was questioning her asked, "Is that all? Is there one more name?" And then Arya asked, "Who do you want me to say?" Mm-hmm. What did you guys think about that? Because I was with a group of friends that we all had completely different takes on that. So let me hear what you guys thought about that.
I took that as when she said, "What name do you want me to give a girl?" I thought that's what she was saying. The girl that she was speaking to. Now you are on my list. That's how I took it.
Okay.
I took it as her taking a step towards, like, I felt like that moment was her taking a step closer to actually being part of the faceless group, because that is the question that he first asked her. All the girl has to say is all the girl has to say is a name. Give me a name. Since she helped him escape, he said, "What has the girl thought of a name?" And that was like the big thing.
The thing with that though was that he had to pay it back, right? Because him and his other two friends were gonna die, and so he had to give 3 deaths back to the faceless god.
Right. That was girl just had to say a name, and like this was her in that role saying, "Give me a name. What name does a girl want me to say? Mm-hmm. What name do you want to be on my list to kill?" So I felt like that was her taking a step towards that in that moment.
Okay.
Right, exactly. She was subsuming her personal identity towards that of being just a fucking crazy assassin lady.
Yeah.
And that moment was like she changed the dynamic and therefore gained the upper hand by saying it doesn't matter what was on my list.
Right.
Give me your list.
Yeah.
Your list.
Right. Exactly. Yep. And then towards the end of that scene, he still says again, "If you tell me your name, I'll give you your eyes back," or whatever. And she still says the girl has no name. And then they go to the little pool or whatever that they have in the middle of the room, and he basically tells her to drink from it and kind of says, if a girl has no name, then what does it matter? You're nobody. So what does it matter if you die or not? And she drinks from it and she gets her eyes back. And until this point, I had thought that whatever's in the water is 100% poison, and whoever drinks it is going to die because that's what happened up until this point. Well, now that's different because obviously she drank it and something else happened. So
it's the concentrated power of the many-faced god, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like it's fucking magic water that can do whatever the fuck it's supposed to do.
But also, what does that tie into whatever she was trying to mix when she was blind? She was mixing some powder and shit in like a colander. What was she mixing? Was she mixing whatever goes into that pool, or does that tie into it somehow? What was the significance of her, while being blind, having to mix all this shit together?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
Yeah, that was interesting.
I really just took it as like she's dealing with some dangerous shit. Like, I didn't read any deeper than that. Like, it felt like if she mixed the wrong thing, like
it was gonna explode.
It was gonna blow up. Yeah. So like, I don't know if they're connected. Yeah. They could be. It could be something that like we haven't seen yet that they just kind of slid in there. But we'll see. It's a good question.
Yeah, Lydia, you either found some next level shit or you were thinking into that I think a little too hard.
Well, because they did the scene of her mixing some shit, and then they did the scene of her drinking out of the pool or whatever. So I kind of felt like those were tied in.
Fair enough.
But it's still, the fact still stands that whatever is in that water or whatever it's not poison. It depends on maybe
what you eat.
The person drinking it,
the type of person, the person drinking it, how the many-faced god sees you. It would be something else. It's not 100% always poison because, like I said, up until now, everyone that has drank from it has died and devoted their body to the many-faced god or whatever.
I just had a crazy thought, right? So it's water that kills you, right? So we've established that, right?
Or whatever it is.
It's water that grants death, right? But part of this whole journey is the idea that you subsume your personality. We mentioned that, right? Like your individuality, right? In the same way and in parallel to Jon Snow being relieved of his oath through death, right? So it read as a purity test, right? It read, is she just going to drop dead here? Or is something good going to happen? Is she going to pass the test of the many-faced god? And by granting her sight back and kind of going through this period, or this kind of experience, it's like Arya Stark died in that moment. She got a new girl got her eyes back.
Good point.
And now
she's officially not Arya anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah, good
point.
So
it did kill her in a way.
Yeah.
So, well, that might be a factor, kind of going back to what we said earlier about the game of lies or whatever. if she is officially dead now, then her face can be in, the whatever.
Hall of Faces.
Hall of Faces, thank you. Now her face can be there, and someone can basically pose as her now if she is pretty much dead, because now she's not Arya anymore. She's a girl with no name that actually has eyesight.
Or she could pose as herself, but instead of working for her own interests, work for the interests of the God of Many Faces, or otherwise objectively or independently.
Mm-hmm. And up until this point, well, everyone still thinks she's dead or doesn't know anything about. Well, Brienne.
She's like MIA, right?
Brienne, I feel like Brienne saw her or something, because Brienne and Sansa talked about Arya.
Brienne saw her and then lost her.
Right. Oh, right, with the Hound.
Yeah.
With the Hound, right. So Brienne is the last relevant character to have seen her alive. So what's going to happen if Brienne or Sansa find Arya, but Arya is no longer Arya? She's a girl with no name. Is she going to stay with that? That's like something that's going to be completely ongoing. Is she going to stay as this like badass assassin or whatever for the many-faced god, or when she finally realizes that she has family still that's out there and she has like shit that she can do as a Stark, is she going to go back to being Arya Stark?
I hope she stays awesome.
I don't know.
She's definitely going to stay awesome.
Well, she'll always be awesome. She'll always be awesome.
I don't think there's any going back. I don't think there's any going back.
I don't
think the many-faced god lets you go back. I think.
That's what I'd be afraid of.
Once you go black and white, you never go back.
All right, let's move on.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so last but absolutely not least, we get to see the Tower of Joy finally. Ned Stark's a cutie.
Is he?
Yeah, in his like 20s or
he's got those big lips.
30s, yeah.
Huge jaw,
yes, yes, chiseled.
Probably an
That's
overbite.
An awesome Sean Bean impression.
Yes,
I loved it.
I
was like, this guy's gonna die any second. This is amazing.
So we can see Ned trying to go and rescue. Oh, this is Bran's flashback, obviously, with Three-Eyed Raven. Trying to rescue his sister from the Targaryens, who allegedly kidnapped her. Allegedly. So this just pushes the R+L=J theory further, because at this point in the flashback, the Mad King is dead. I think Rhaegar's dead at this point. Is it?
Yeah, Rhaegar's dead.
Yeah, Rhaegar's dead. So all it is Lyanna in the tower, and Ned is trying to go rescue her, and
all of her own blood,
and a baby.
Yeah.
So they get into this fight, and what's really interesting is that Bran says he heard the story like 100 times about this fight or whatever, and it turns out to be a lie, that the Targaryen guard or whatever was so much stronger than him and such a better swordsman, and he ends up almost getting defeated. So we talked about this. Did we talk about this before we started tonight? You guys were talking about because he got stabbed in the back. I feel like we did, or maybe me and Wally did. Is that you and me?
I don't think that
Yeah, we did.
Okay. Well, so it happened is basically what we're saying. So we can see that that Ned is running towards Lyanna, and you can hear her crying in the tower. I thought I heard a baby cry, but when I watched it a second time, I didn't. But if she's screaming and everything, it's probably from childbirth, is what I think.
But
more than likely.
More importantly, it was Bran screaming
and Ned hearing him. Yeah. You could see.
So that kind of leads in. Do they have that? Can he go back in time and change shit?
I don't think he can change shit, but I think Bran is probably stronger with his powers or whatever than the Three-Eyed Raven is. So he probably is more like influential in that matter, and that's probably why the Three-Eyed Raven immediately pulled him out. Was like, oh shit, Ned can hear him, we need to go. We need to
Well, he was
GTF.
pulling him out beforehand, right?
Yeah. But then
that was the thing. He was like, all right.
Oh no! We lost everyone! Oh my gosh, I don't know what just happened. I literally don't know what just happened, guys. So please stand by. Please stand by. What happened?
I have no idea.
I don't know.
I don't know either. My
Madison, you guys.
did it shut you guys down too?
Yeah.
Well, I think we lost Nate and Madison. Wow.
Well, you lost us too. We had to call back in.
Oh no, I lost everyone. Like my Skype completely shut down.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Well, we were close to the end anyway.
No one shall ever talk about R plus L equals
Yes.
J. This is the result right here.
We
no
gotta
one
talk about this.
Yeah.
We gotta throw down on this. There's a lot in this scene.
Yeah.
And it's not just R plus L equals J, like thematically too.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway,
They out?
I don't know. I don't know where they are. I don't know what happened. But we can keep going.
So consequentially,
yes.
Dude can go back in time, and Dude can potentially influence events in time, right? Because if he can holler and his dad can hear him, then he can obviously do other things also.
He probably, but he definitely should not, and that's probably something that the Three-Eyed Raven is trying to teach him.
Yeah,
well,
and that was like what you were saying.
What's that?
Go ahead, Ralph. I'm sorry.
Okay, that was like what you were saying. Like the Raven, like I think Bran is stronger than him. The whole thing. The Raven told him was like, I've been here for thousands of years waiting on you. Like he's got to teach him everything. Like the Raven says, you have to learn everything, right? So like he has to teach Bran all of the stuff in thousands of years because Bran has to be the guy that like goes and does something to probably kill the White Walkers and save the world.
Yeah. And I just think I think one of the most interesting things is how often is Bran now, is it going to be something where he's not going to take him back in the past as much or for as long, because I don't think it can bode well if Bran is able to actually communicate or even influence anyone in the past to make them feel like they may have heard something, even if it's not direct communication.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, and I think that's part of him having to be trained, right? Because I think the Three-Eyed Crow can probably do the same shit. It's just that he's tempered himself and he does not do it, right? Like he opts to say, okay, that is the past and I'm not going to change it, kind of deal. And I think he has to teach Bran to do the same stuff. Like, Bran, you can do these things, right? But you have to reach that level of maturity and understanding to where you're not going to go back in time and change it.
Well, see, and I kind of agree with Kevin that there was a lot more in this scene than just, Bran saw this. I think it was that he saw that a good chunk of what happened in the past and what you were told was necessarily
a lie. Right.
He was killed, but he was not killed honorably.
Yeah.
So it's like, how much of what my father told me is true? It's going to have him start questioning what really happened.
Yeah, like Eddard was about to get stabbed by the Morningstar guy, and his buddy just kind of crept up from behind him.
The Morningstar guy.
Yeah, so that was about to be the end of the Eddard Stark story, right?
Right,
he was about to be done with it because he rolls up with like 6 dudes, and there's 2 Targaryen defenders, and they kill everybody except for Eddard and the other guy.
Right.
So it's interesting. It's based on kind of what Wally was saying, and also you, Ralph. And it's a sci-fi concept, so you wonder how much of it is going to kind of get involved in Game of Thrones or like a fantasy type of situation. But are we switching calls?
No. Ignore that. Ignore that.
All right. So like a fantasy sort of situation. It's called the temporal causality loop. It's the idea that when you go back in time, it's actually always happened in that manner, and that you actually cause things to happen by going back in time, such that like it comes back around the other way.
Yeah,
it's fucking mind bending. it's something between like the Star Trek: The Next Generation episode, Cause and Effect, or like Back to the Future.
That's what I was just thinking about, Kevin. Oh my god! Yes,
oh my god! You guys are
nerds. Go back in time and then bring about. Star Trek is a totally different quota, by the way, Lydia. So I don't want to hear shit.
Same thing.
Hey.
Yeah, son. What's up? What's up, homie? This is my peoples.
Oh my god.
But to kind of touch on the thematics, right? Like, so there's a couple of interesting things here, right? Is very much the idea that Eddard Stark lied about his confrontation with Sir Arthur Dayne, right? And that's important not only because it's part of the theme of the episode, but also the last time we saw Eddard Stark, he was doing anything but lying. He was like that. He was like that scene in The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou, like, I want to fight you, Steve, and then he gets punched in the mouth, because it's like, when you want to fight someone, you don't fucking tell them, right?
Exactly.
Like, so he was being super fucking honest. So stop that. So you could see that Ed Stark or Ned Stark, when the situation suits it enough, he will lie. And certainly, if we're talking about R plus L equals J, like, which is about to happen, the fact that he is capable of lying is pretty important thematically. And also the presence of Howland Reed is pretty cool too, because that's Mira and
Jojen.
What's the other kid's name? Jojen.
Yeah. Well, it was kind of like you said, he had to lie when it was necessary, I guess. And if Jon Snow, if R plus L really does equal J, then that's a huge lie that they've been living the whole time as well.
And he's been lying all his life.
Yeah, then he's been lying the whole time.
But it makes all the sense in the world, right? Because we know that all the Targaryens basically were killed.
Right. Right.
And so if they knew that he was a Targaryen, he would be killed. But it was also his sister's son, his nephew, so he could not be killed.
Right.
So, like, all the sense in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we got Nate and Madison back.
Just Madison.
Hey,
Madison.
Nate is wearing his cloak of invisibility.
Oh, did Nate have to go back to work?
So that's a totally different thing.
No, he ran out. He ran out.
Oh, he ran away. Well, we scared him off.
Decisions
Okay.
were made.
Well,
he was so terrified by Skype shutting down.
Oh, okay.
He
well, since you missed the whole Tower of Joy, do you want to add anything to it?
No, I don't want to go back on anything that anybody might have said, so I'll just leave it at the other experts.
At the other experts.
Where?
Yeah, exactly.
And you.
Okay. One thing that I was really happy to see.
An expert arrives.
There's the expert. The dogs are the experts. I was really glad to see, because I was really curious in the preview for the next episode. Littlefinger is coming back, because I had been wondering this whole time, because usually when there's a bunch of shit going down, he's like off in the corner going like this and kind of watching everything turn, so kind of figuring out where he is. And now he's gonna see now we're gonna see him, and hopefully he will have some type of relevance. Bless you again. I don't really remember what else we saw in the preview for the next episode, so somebody else can take it away, because I don't remember what was in it. Oh yeah, Sam and Gilly, thank you. Okay, I completely forgot about Sam and Gilly. Wow, I feel really bad now. Sorry, Sam and Gilly. That's why
he was vomiting the whole time. So,
that's why I was letting us go long on the Tower of Joys, because I thought we were done. But
are you gonna puke? No, lie.
Gilly, I like where Gilly's character is going. She's becoming, I guess, a little more adventurous, but she's also having to put a lot of her faith into Sam. And instead of going to Old Town, where Sam wanted to become a maester, which I think he would be great at, he would be such a good maester, he's taking her home to his family.
Well, we'll see.
That took
right?
him.
That's his intention.
That made him go be part of the Night's Watch.
Yeah, but she called him daddy, so
Yeah.
he might keep her
That
around.
was so good. That was
Yeah,
so good.
it was
really
really
was.
It was really
Well,
cute.
I thought maybe that was foreshadowing to maybe she is pregnant.
No.
One
No.
shot Sam.
Speaking
You know how many times they've been doing it since
Hey,
they
they've been on a boat, man.
She need to pull it in.
I don't think so. I don't think there's any way she could be pregnant. One shot Sam. Oh my god. Can we
I mean, I
not?
can explain to you the way that she can be
Oh
pregnant.
my god.
All you have to do is watch Teen
I
Mom.
don't.
Hot dog to a donut.
I mean, you know, it's yeah.
Wow,
you know.
okay. Well, this is a really great way to end the episode.
Well, all right. So look, here, let me give you something a little bit more high-minded and intellectual. It's the idea that
Wait, wait. Something high-minded and intellectual? Stop
For me-
the press! Kevin
Right.
has something intellectual to say.
look, it's dick jokes or high-minded and intellectual. I got two modes. All right. You got the first. Here comes the second. It's a 1-2 punch. Is their exploration of what truth and oaths mean is interesting as well, right? Because they specifically debate like, well, you promised that we would never be apart and that you would go the same places that I would, right? And he was kind of like, well, really what I was trying to do was protect you. And she goes, all right, I'll buy that. Let's go to Horn Hill. Sounds great. And so it's interesting that once we're talking about an oath that gets reinterpreted
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
due to expedient.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also, this is how it works.
Mumbles from
So
Ralph in the background.
Little,
Yeah.
that's how that works.
So what did we say next week's episode is called? Some book?
the book of something.
That was something down under.
What? Like I said, we're lacking experts.
Book of the Stranger.
Look at the
Book of the
stranger.
Stranger.
Something
Oh yeah.
down under.
Wow, can we not with the
Hey,
dick
a
jokes?
stranger under, you know.
Earth?
Whatever.
What?
Yeah.
The stranger's different. I'll show you that too. Look. Here.
I don't
I'll show you how
know.
that works.
I just-
All right. Well. All right. Oh.
I just really want to end the episode. That's all I want to do.
This has been one for the books.
Yeah.
This has been
Book
one
of Stranger.
for some kind of book. That's
A
for
book
sure.
of strangers.
Hey.
A book of shames. So
Which is
Well,
a
we still haven't
nerd.
talked why we call the podcast Shame of Nerds.
Yeah,
Are we gonna-
exactly.
or Shame of Thrones. Are we ever going to mention that? Or
why
I guess
we
I
call it
did.
a Shame of Thrones?
yeah.
I
We
figured it's
never-
pretty obvious considering
I'm ashamed
shame.
to be on this thing.
A
That's why.
shame of Thrones?
It should be ashamed of thrones, not
Ashamed.
ashamed of.
A shame of Thrones.
Ashamed of thrones.
Oh, ashamed of Thrones. Many interpretations. Okay, well, that was an interesting episode. Anyway, thanks everyone for hanging out tonight, and we may or may not see you next week if we can last that long. We'll see.
Well, we can do it.
We can do
We
it.
got to be an esports team.
All right, thanks everyone.
We got this.
Maybe,
Yep,
maybe
yep.
not see you next
Take
week.
care, guys.
All right.
Yeah.
bye-bye.
See you in Old Town.
Oh God.
Dead.